Good evening and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's a Leeds United special tonight with myself, Stephen Brown, and also joining me as ever for the Leeds content, it is Jason Booker. Welcome along, everyone. Please smash a like on the video, get your comments in. We're going to be chatting all things Leeds United, and it's been an interesting few days to say the least. Kind of putting my cards on the table, Jace, to where my head's at. Obviously, devastation after the QPR game. That realisation that it's all but ended in terms of our automatic hopes. Ipswich then winning the other night, and it kind of stirred up things again. It's been interesting, actually, because I've kind of had the full range of emotions over the last few days since Friday night. I think I'm at the end of processing it at the moment. I feel a little bit more positive today. I've watched some good content online, particularly on Just Joe's channel. Joe and Joe did a great video where put a lot of things into perspective. I needed to see something like that, to be totally honest. Because obviously what's happened since Leeds lost 4-0 to QPR and Ipswich have kind of got one foot in the Premier League already, as we've seen a bit of the meltdown online. We've seen accusations being thrown at Farke, time up for Farke, sack Farke, all this kind of thing. It really has kind of been wild, some of the stuff we've seen. Where's your head at it, Jason? I think you felt like this probably a few days ago already. I think you kind of already got yourself to that position after Friday night's game. You were certainly angry the day after, but, after that, you'd kind of settled off a bit. But a few days later, obviously the Ipswich result, we've not been on live since then. But how are you feeling about things now?
Yeah, I think I was obviously very angry after the QPR game, more for the performance than the loss of potential promotion or anything like that. The performance is what really did me on the day. I still feel like that about it. I mean, I think it's just a blip. It can happen to anybody. Southampton got pumped 5-0 by Leicester in their must-win game. There's been other weird results throughout the season. And, so I get it can happen. But the kind of collapse on the day was really poor to see. And some of the things from Farke, from the players. But you know what? It's done. It's over with. And for me, the perspective of the season, just actually, before I go on to that, the whole game at the weekend, the Saturday, I think the hopes for me went then. As much as it did not, and we could have seen them then lose to Coventry, I think they had to lose the whole game and then go into the Coventry game needing a win. I think it was different. Once they'd got the point against Hull, and Hull, played really well. I mean, they probably deserved the 3 points, bar some terrible defending. That have got the 3 points that day, but it just felt like when they'd come away from there with the point, it felt like they could go to Coventry and get 3, and that's exactly what they did. And you know what? They deserve it. They absolutely deserve it. I'd argue, at the end of the day, over 46 games, the team that finish in first and second deserve to finish in first and second. I truly believe that. I think most of the time things equal themselves out. You can look at injuries, form, international breaks, whatever reason or excuse you want to make to it, you'll finish where you deserve. But if we do go on and win at the weekend and Ipswich were somehow to lose, I'd probably still say they deserve it. I'd probably still say that Ipswich deserve it, even though we'd nick it. So, they've been fantastic. And so, yeah, I've tried to deal with this week then with a bit of perspective and a bit of context. Like you say, some of the other content that we've seen around, Joe and Joe particularly, I thought put it brilliantly yesterday. When everybody else is doom mongering and just looking towards the negatives all the time, they deal with it with a pinch of reality and a sense of kind of real context to what this season's been. 90 points or 93 that we'll finish on. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable achievement to finish that high. No team has ever not gone up with 93 points. We'll finish on the same total that won us the league under Bielsa. And sure, it's not the same as any other season. I hear that, but it needs to matter for something. It doesn't matter for anything when we're talking about potential accomplishments, but when we're trying to, contextualize the whole season, that counts for something. It absolutely counts for something. When you're talking about this season, you're trying to contextualize it, and you look at August and the S show that this club was coming out of the summer with Radrazani and the 49ers, Daniel Farke coming in late, players, we didn't sign Ampadu, Rodon, Kamara, Pirro until back end of August. The team that we had out against Birmingham, all these things, they matter. They matter in us not achieving 97 plus points. I mean, my word, when that's what you're then looking at for the season and why it's been a failure, like, come on. And some of the stuff that we've heard this week with regards to Farke, I've questioned some of his decisions and tactics and all the rest of it. But again, he's the man that's managed to lead that ship, which was definitely swirling all over the place at one point, to 90 or 93 points. And again, that matters for a lot. I would fully have confidence that he would take us into next season and get us promoted. So, yeah, that's how I feel about it, mate.
Yeah, good stuff. Just some other points to cover off here. Michael, good evening, Stephen, Jason. Good evening, Michael. Thanks for getting along. Also, I'd like to say Locks has been watching along as well. Hey up, lads. Great banter last week or so. Time for Leicester players to shut up now. That's enough. Good luck in the playoffs. I want you to go up because of Just Joe. Yeah, exactly.
I've had some good back and forward with Locks on Twitter over the last week. At least he's sensible. Like some of the stuff I don't agree with that he says, and I think he then will either agree or disagree with my point that I put back to him. But I think ultimately, I definitely agree with that. I think fair enough, a couple of songs from the fans. I don't understand why the players are getting involved in it, if I'm honest. Like, they've won the league.
It went further than I realised it had, because I messaged you. I saw you tweeting and I tweeted you to we've just got to take his medicine here. But then I was like, hang on a second. There's Mavropanos coming out. And I'm like, hang on, this is a lot now. This is a lot that these Leicester players are doing. And it was kind of like, wow.
I think a lot of it has got to do with
the fans as well. Were saying it, weren't they? A lot of other fans of other clubs,
It weren't just Leeds fans that were kind of sniggering at Leicester fans and players. It was opposition fans too, to Huddersfield fans. I mean, my word, defending our position to it, if you like. Yeah. I think a lot of it centres back to the Enzo Maresca comment, but I don't think that what's happened has changed. That he was made to look very silly then. After that game, the gap was 6 points, I think it was, or whatever. We then overtook them. It mattered. It definitely was a big game, and it weren't that one of our guys came out and said, oh, it's not a big game for Leicester or it's a big game for both of them. It Enzo Maresca chose to answer that question like that and got proven to be completely wrong. I think the Ampadu comment in the tunnel afterwards, I think that's tongue-in-cheek, and it's directly after the emotional feeling of winning the game. It weren't that players then were coming out and still boasting about it. You didn't see celebrations in the changing room where we were singing a Leicester Hallmark song or something. I just don't get it. I don't understand this whole I predict a riot thing. It's just weird. It's just really, really weird. I could get it if we were Coventry, like a local rival, and it were, it was stoked up through an existing rivalry. There's no rivalry between Leeds and Leicester other than we were both going for promotion. So, and they should finish where they finished. But, they should. So,
yeah. Michael might give us an answer. He said Leeds have done the double over Leicester City and Ipswich Town. That Ellen Road defeat for Leicester City touched a raw nerve.
It did. It definitely did. I don't care what anybody said. It definitely did. And at the time, they were bottling it. And I think if we have not bottled it, if you want to use that expression, and Ipswich for that matter, towards the back end of the season, we'd have all been looking back at that game and being like, that was the turning point. That was the moment where Leicester were completely done. I made the point last week that if Leicester had have lost the game against West Brom, which they should have done, I think we're having totally different conversations right now, because I think Leicester would have struggled to pull that ship around. But that game, getting over the line in that game, I think really got them over the line, especially with the Leeds and Ipswich still faltering at that point.
Yeah, I think that's probably kind of what hurt most last week, is that we beat Middlesbrough on the Monday. And of course you think, we may have got over our little kind of mini slump or whatever, and then obviously Friday night being what it was, obviously it's a bit of a kick in the teeth. I think something that's not been kind of mentioned much, it certainly wasn't talked about for the majority of the season. You've mentioned it, to be fair to you, a couple of times, especially recently, is the average age of the Leeds squad, and the fact that, how big a factor does that kick in when you're talking about players like Archie and Willie and Somerville and Rutter. You're talking about a very young team, not much experience. Even though talent-wise we're certainly above Ipswich, but you look at them, they've got a lot of grizzled players in there, players who know what they're doing. Signing someone like Kiefer Morsey, these guys know what they're doing, and I think that it didn't really click with me, but when you think about it, actually, it does make sense. And I think, we'll get into Farke's press conference today, but, he's made comment that it is a very young team. And when you get to these, if you get to this stage of the season, nobody has experience really on that pitch of this situation, and these things, it just takes its toll, doesn't it? You're looking at Leicester and they've got, I know he's not played much, but like Cody in the squad and Winks, and, they've just got that little bit more age to them, that little bit more wisdom, experience or whatever. I still think Farke's made mistakes, but it's a long stretch from saying he's made mistakes to let's get rid of him.
Browney, talent alone's not enough. It's just not an experience is especially specific experience. I'm not just talking about being older. Like experience of being in these situations is massive in a sport that's heavily orientated on mentality, teamwork, togetherness. All these kind of things matter so much. That's why I can't quite understand when people are scoffing at me for saying that Bamford makes a difference on Friday night. He absolutely makes a massive difference, not just because of his technical ability and what he then brings to the team in football capacity, but the experience in and around them young lads. Harry Winks is not worth 90 grand a week. He's absolutely not. I think he's just a bang average midfielder, but it's a Champions League finalist. When you're rocking up against West Brom at home in a crunch match, or Southampton or whatever in a crunch match for potential promotion, that's nothing in comparison to playing in a Champions League final. So it'll just be water off his ducks back to him. And that counts for a lot. It counts for a lot. And then you talk about the Ipswich team, momentum is a massive thing in football. We've seen this before with League One teams coming into the Championship and doing well. We did it a few years ago when we first came into the Championship. We finished just outside the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right.
We had a good team then, but we had a momentum from coming up, and we had some good experience in that team. If you think back to the likes of Richard Naylor and At the time, players coming through, we had Paddy Kisnorbo still in that side. Players that had been there and done it and seen it, and it absolutely counts for a lot. So I think ultimately Ipswich are a little bit of an anomaly. I don't think you'll see anything quite like them ever again in terms of that bounce through. To finish on 96 points likely is what they're going to finish on. It's just unreal. And, I've seen a lot. I know we're going to get into the press conference, but we also need to remember where we were this season and what our expectations were. I think both me and you at the beginning of the season were very much a case of this could be quite squeaky. We might even be looking towards mid-table, to which then towards the end of August, and we saw the transfers, we changed this perspective and we said top six would have been good. And the facts are is we're going to finish comfortably inside the top six. It was only when we then broke down that 17-point gap that we started even thinking about automatic promotion. That were only in February or March. Yeah. So, what I mean? Over the whole sustained of the season, it's been a good season, guys. It has. It'll be ultimately disappointing if it finishes in losing in the playoffs. But is it the end of the world? Really? Like, I'm not as scared about next season in the Championship as I maybe was a few weeks ago. Now that I've thought about it and really thought about the way that the structure of the club and the team and the 49ers and everything else will go, feel quite relaxed either way. I want us to go up, of course, but I feel quite relaxed about it either way.
Yeah, I've kind of gone 180 on it over the last probably day or so as well, because it I was driving myself mad. You know what it's like. You're thinking about it all the time, aren't you? You're waking up and you go, bloody hell, we were so close. Why haven't we done it? And this, we're not going to fulfill our potential as a club in the Championship. Everyone knows that. Every man and his dog knows that. We know we need to be in that Premier League to really fulfill our potential as a big club. But I think when you look at everything, when you look at the full picture, if we don't go up this season, we're still in such a strong position going into next season. I mean, there's been a lot, obviously, Leeds' accounts have come out, and look, in a couple of years, if we're still in the Championship, then you're probably looking at the club downgrading to a bang average Championship club, because you just can't keep that level up. So, there's a bit of pressure on to get it done in the next, certainly next season would be, ideal if it's not this season. But when you look at how we're going to be placed and how we're going to fare, It's like Joe was saying about entitlement. We have 3 Premier League campaigns in 20 odd seasons. It's mad. We were nowhere near being an established Premier League club. That leap to get into the Premier League is absolutely huge. I mean, it's a mountain to climb. So we've almost got to look at it and go, look at our situation. Before Bielsa came, we were nothing. We were nowhere. We were bang average, 13th to 17th every year in, year out. And we got Bielsa. It changed. We went to the Premier League, and like you say, I mean, look. This season, what I've got to remember as well, and it's hard when you get to the end and maybe we don't go up. But I look at this season, I think of the amount of fun I've had watching this team at times. It's for me. I'm probably still going to give Rutter my player of the season, and the reason why is you can make cases for every other player, but he's the person who made me fall in love with watching Leeds again because of
fun to watch, isn't it?
It's fun to watch, and to me, like when I've watched Rutter at times this season, he's got me off my chair.
Yeah,
I'm excited to watch it, and that's what it's about. Watching football, that's what it is. I think this thing of like we've got 90 points, but that don't matter, and it's like look how many games we've won this season compared to the previous seasons.
It's definitely a mindset thing, like there is a divine right, an entitlement. Even to young fans, which blows my mind, that pretty much all they've ever seen is League One and the Championship, that we be in the Premier League. And that's just not the way that it works. We are a big club. We are. But that doesn't then entitle you to be in one of them 20 spots because it's what you do on the pitch. So absolutely for me, over the last 20 years, I saw it mentioned the other day, West Brom and Norwich have spent more time in the Premier League than us. Huddersfield have spent 1 season less. That's it. You know what I mean? So, absolutely, 100%. We definitely have an entitled mindset in a large section of the fan base, and it drives them mad. It sends them into a place where they're not enjoying what they're seeing week in, week out. They would rather see us win 8 games in the Premier League and finish 17th than win 22 and finish 3rd, in the Championship. Yeah. So I think it's more than that. I think it's 26 games or something. Like I agree with you completely. I think this season has been a lot of fun. It's been enjoyable to watch, and that's why I'm not so hung up on the potential of potentially being in this division again. I don't want it, and I see the benefits of us getting to the Premier League as early as possible to build, and hopefully we can be back towards a Villa, a Newcastle, whoever else that's up there, right? And I think we have got the potential to do that, but that's a long journey. And so often, as we found out under Bielsa, the journey is far better than the destination. Yeah, the journey of actually getting there is the bit that's fun and enjoyable. So let's try and enjoy this. Now, I've said it to you a lot of this season. Just go on and try and enjoy the game without stressing about it. I know even I've been stressing about it this last couple of weeks, but it's so true. It's so true.
No, it is. I mean, it is. I mean, like, I remember, I think you had a day off recently. You were watching the Take Us Home, from and it's amazing. The best part of that journey was going up, really. The first year in the Premier League was obviously fantastic, but it was a COVID year, so the fans weren't there. But the journey is so important. And look, 90 points we've got this season, and how many terrific games we've watched. I mean, I know there's a lot of kind of criticism about Farke's style that's come on, and it's something that's raged. But I go back to the start of the season where I was relieved to see us have possession. I was relieved to see us have the ball. I mean, for 2 years, we'd basically watched ourselves have no possession. Certainly last year. I mean, it was dreadful. We'd have the ball for, barely at all. I was just happy to see us have the ball this season. But it's amazing how, as the season grows and, suddenly what was working for us and what's a strength is suddenly then used to criticise it. The fact that we retain possession and we're patient and all this kind of stuff. Now it's used almost like a stick to beat us with.
I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter that I met at the Leeds play on the pitch thing last year. And he was saying, I don't want to see this. I want to see press, and I want to see quick attacking football and stuff like that. And I just made the point to him that, look, Bielsa's gone. Like, that football is gone. And I do think that is what does a lot of what we're seeing at the moment to fans, because all they're comparing it against all the time is Bielsa's style, Bielsa's football, the way that Bielsa made us feel. And the fact is all of that is gone. I know it's sad. I feel it too. I would give anything to have that Bielsa football back, but it's not here. And the facts are, it's if we'd have had what we'd have had this season in 18, 19, 19, 20, we would have been delighted, Brownie.
Yeah,
we'd have been absolutely delighted. But we were so spoiled, and we judge everything against it. And rightly so to a point, especially with Marsh and Gracia and Allardyce and all that. I can get that. But I think we need to start detaching from that a bit now, because this is a different generation. It's a different era. There's different ways of playing and winning games. And the facts are is that, you know, in 18-19, if we'd have had this points total, we'd have won the league. Farke's first season against Bielsa's first season. So I think you're absolutely right. It's a stick to kind of hit us with at times when it doesn't go right. But I think it is very much a case of comparing it to how good that football was to watch, even though it didn't always win us games.
Yeah,
you know?
No, indeed. Couple of comments here, Byron. This isn't over yet. Pride comes before a fall. Ambition over ability equals problems. Nigel, if we stay in the Championship next season, Farke has to rebuild this squad with a few chiseled Championship players in key areas. Might be grizzled at. Ipswich did great business getting more. Michael, what dates are the playoffs? It's 12th and 16th, is it?
Yeah, 12th and 16th, and then the 26th of for the final. For the final.
Yeah,
is it the day before Bank Holiday Monday? I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, Ian, what about all the players out on loan? Will there be a problem looking forward to next season? God knows what's going to happen. I mean, do you reckon the 49ers have two plans then? Is it Premier League plan, Championship plan, and it's
100%.
You know, spinning those plates, isn't it? Really,
100%. The just on that, the loan players are allowed to go back out on loan again if the loaning club pays 100% of the wages again. So they come back on 60% pay cut and stay at Leeds, or they get 100% of their wage at the outgoing club. So I don't think there'll be many takers from any of them.
No. Aronson to come back and smash it. That's my prediction.
I think we'll see a couple of them in the squad next season if we're in the Championship. Because I don't think there'll be many takers for a lot of them.
No, I would. I love a good redemption story, me. So bring it on. Nige, such a pity if we miss out on promotion this season. I guess the Ellen Road redevelopment will be on hold again. The ground desperately needs revamping. Yeah, I mean, big plans like that. You can imagine. We need to be established Prem to really get going with the ground. You would think, and that's the kind of impact it has, but. I mean, football's a long game, isn't it? You know, and Farke said it today, and you know, let's get into the press conference today. I mean, Farke, you know, one of the things he said is he feels like this team with the age issue is, you know, it's there for the long term. Hopefully, you know, if you can keep players and grow as a team. What did you make of Farke's press conference today? Because obviously it was interesting. You could see that obviously it's us against them a little bit. He's up against it. Obviously, he knows that the last result was a damaging one, but typical Farke for me, very kind of logical and calm. And yeah, what did you make of it?
I thought he tried to tell us as much as he could without giving it all away. If that kind of makes sense. Yeah. You know, he didn't want to throw anybody under the bus. He wants to support his players. I was thinking earlier, and I think I saw this in another stream about Kenny McLean at Norwich. It just kind of explains that signing or that attempted signing again. Because I think some people were turned the nose up at it a little bit when we were linked with him towards the end of the window. And again, just having that experience in them key areas of the pitch would have been massive, I think. But yeah, I thought it was a real kind of telling one that he didn't want to obviously rule out finishing the top two. I think he tried to remind us. I think he's in touch with the fan base in terms of what the consensus is online. I think he looks, which I don't like the idea of the fact that he probably looks at it, because most of it makes me cringe. So I can only imagine what it makes him feel like. I think he tried to remind people of where we've come from, the challenges that we've had this season, the inexperience of this side and the importance of that. I think a lot of that will be lost on fans, though, Brownie. I really do. I don't think fans pay attention to that side of football at all. I think they just see ability. They should win a game. I think that's it. Yeah. Which is a shame a lot of the time, because it then kind of negates all the good stuff that this team has done and been able to achieve, you know. I still think we've got a very small squad. And I think that's, you know, proven a problem this season. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything more that you can take from it. That's pretty much the long and short of what it was. It reminded us of how hard and challenging this season was at periods of times, reminded us of how young this team was, and showed that he was going to go for it in this last game and hope there's a miracle. But he didn't expect to finish in the top 2. I think Daniel Farke could have probably expected to be challenging for top 6. You know, if we were going into this last game needing a win for 6th, and if we won, we confirmed playoffs, I think most of us would be buzzing. Because the season would have gone in such a way that would have been a good finish to the season. You know, earlier on the season, this did not look like the situation like this had been the situation going into game 46. In the last game of the season, we still stand a chance of finishing 2nd. That's not the way that it was. And a lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, but now you're just coping with, you know, what's happened." Maybe a little bit over this last few weeks. But if you take yourselves back to the start of the season, not many people would have picked us for top 2. I mean, if you're picking that team that went out against Birmingham and finished top 2, you don't know football. You just don't know football. So, yeah, that's what I think from earlier on. I thought it was quite a good press conference, to be honest. I've only seen bits of it. I've not listened to it.
I saw about half. I mean, some of the things as well. One thing that's kind of not been mentioned, I think this gets rolled up with kind of the ability argument as well. It says that, you know, Farke saying Leeds haven't bought success. You know, he understands that relegated clubs have got bigger budgets than others, but doesn't feel that Leeds have banked on guaranteed experience. Again, you know, one of the youngest sides in comparison, and plus, you know, the sales we did make, like Tyler Adams, getting the loan players off, you know, you look at that net spend and it's you know, it's
minimal, isn't it?
It's minimal. You know, we covered ourselves, didn't we?
Yeah. I mean, Gio Rutter is the one that will get thrown back at that, but he's not a £35 million player. He wasn't when we bought him.
20, yeah, but in the end, it was only, we didn't pay 35, did we? It was 20, like 28 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But the facts are is a player is worth the value of what somebody's prepared to pay for him, right? So that makes him worth 28 million or 35 million or whatever. But that doesn't make him actually a 35 million pound player. Yeah, we bought the potential, and we can all see it. We can all see why there was a bit of a rough diamond there that we've gone out and spent that money on. It was desperation. That's what it was. It was a terrible signing at the time. We went into this season not having a clue what he was going to look like, and thankfully he's turned into some player. But we didn't have a clue, did we, Brownie? No. Not a clue. You know, and when you look through the rest of the side, you know, Somerville 1.5 million, Archie Gray free. You know, and this carries on throughout this team. There's not big money. Byram free, Junior Firpo. We all know what we thought of Firpo. I mean, my word, I wouldn't have had him anywhere near this team up until February. Nowhere near.
Yeah.
And I think that continues through. Nonto were what? 2 million, 3 million, you know, there's not big money in this team. You can look at Pirro and you can look at Ampadu maybe as the 2 money signings this summer, but it's minimum. It's real minimal for a relegated club, you know. Not when you compare it to Harry Winks coming in on 90 grand a week, you know, because spending money on a player is one thing. The wage budget is actually solid money, because bear in mind, when you sign a player, the value depreciates over the length of the contract, but the fact is you're probably going to sell that asset, so you'll probably end up making money on the player. When you're paying a player's wages, that's dead money every week going out, so it's actually more cost effective. Is that the signing is actually better for the club? It's smaller really than the wage, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Another thing he pointed out as well, Farke, on the QPR game, he said there was a lack of aggression and bravery. He says the decision to take Sam Byram off was a mistake. Made Leeds weaker at set pieces. He said there was not one staff member, including me, who shouldn't be self-critical. So I think some fans were starting to think that maybe not an arrogance was in there, but nothing's my fault kind of vibe from Farke, when clearly that's just not going to be the case, is it?
I don't think that's the case at all, mate. I've not seen anything that makes me think that that's the case. Not ever.
You can't,
really.
can you? You can't. You have to analyse everything, don't you? You have to analyse what's going forward. In terms of what happens next, then, Jason, it's Southampton on Saturday. I don't know how I feel about this one, because it's annoyingly, there's still this little small chance that it could go our way, and it kind of, it's just frustrating, because really it's not going to happen, but there's that annoying little voice saying, yeah, but you never know. So it kind of means that intensity has got to be there to our game, and then obviously it's a quick turnaround to the playoff semi-final. What do you want to see? Do you think Farke is now going to kind of take the opportunity maybe to mix it up a little bit more, or what are you going to double down? Or
I would doubt it. I would highly doubt it. I do think that Joseph will start if Bamford isn't fit, which it looks as if he won't be. I think he will. Because I think deep down he knows he's done. He knows that Ipswich are going to get at least a point deep down. Yeah. I still think he'll go with an extremely strong squad, but I think this is a perfect time to start Joseph. Can he, what if Pirro drops down? Yeah. Can Joseph be the man to lead us into the 2 playoff games? I'm not sure. None of you are sure. You can all tell me that you think he's the man, but you don't know that, because we haven't seen it at Championship level. So I think this is a perfect example to give him that opportunity. He would thrive, I think, on it. I think he can do it. I do. But, I think some good points have been made this week as well about Joseph's deficiencies. We don't want to see him. We want him to be the hero. We want him to be the saviour and all the rest of it. Yeah. But they're there. Yeah, they are there. He doesn't offer us as much as Pat. Like, people can get as upset about it as what they want, but Pat is absolutely essential. I think, and I know Joe mentioned this earlier, and we'll keep on harping about Joe's streams there this week.
Yeah, he's just basically copying.
Yeah, well, no, we're just saying go watch Joe, because he's a great content creator, and he is. But I thought he hit the nail on the head. If we go into the playoffs without Pat, I have got no confidence that we win over the 2 legs. Zero confidence, because he's that pivotal to the way that we play that I just don't see how we replicate it over 2 massive games. Imagine asking Joseph to do that, and we know Pirro can't. I mean, for me, I would go completely rogue and put Rutter back there or put Nonto there. I would do anything possible to not put Pirro there.
So what happens if he does? First playoff game comes up and Bamford's not fit and Pirro's in there.
We lose the game, mate. We lose the game. Like, that's, the first game's going to be away from home. We lose the game. Well, we just lose the game. I mean,
we do. No, we do.
The summer will come and decisions will be made on Pirro. There's no way that Farke can analyse it with his coaching staff and be like, yeah, he's the man for us. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So that'll be a decision for them. And, at the end of the day, if he has to make that decision because the squad is only giving him Bamford, Pirro and Joseph, and he's making the decision as the manager of the club based on what he's seen to pick Pirro, you live and die by your decisions, though. Yeah, but yeah, it'd be a bizarre one for me if I saw Pirro come out and start 9 on Saturday, given the landscape and the circumstances. I think it'd be a perfect opportunity to start him. But he'd have an hard day with Joseph. Southampton, we've got some experienced centre-backs back there. They've got some big lads back there. Ben Rex, an absolute monster of a centre-back in this division. And Taylor Harwood-Bellis is an absolute monster as well. Again, what if it just completely devoids his confidence and then we don't even have a sub to bring on in the playoffs because he's that gone? You know what I mean? It's all these things. I get it's not easy. Coming back to the game, I think he fully goes for it. I think it's vital that we win this game regardless of what happens with Ipswich. We can't go into the playoff games against Hull, Norwich or West Brom because they're all going to be tricky games then. I really don't want Hull, by the way. We can't go into one of them games with another defeat on the back of the QPR to then lose again at home. I just think would be an absolute travesty. So I think it's a vital win, regardless of what happens at Ipswich. I mean, imagine it filters through after 5 minutes that Ipswich are down to 10 men or something. You know what I mean? Like, it happens, doesn't it? I always think about when Burnley lost to Newcastle when we stayed up. Nobody gave us a chance going into Brentford that day. I was fully convinced we were down. and everything kind of played for us. And I know that this is going to be even more extreme than that, but that's football. It can happen, you know. We're only 17-1, and 17-1's big odds. It is, but we're only 17-1 really in the grand scheme of things to get promoted. It's 1 win, 1 loss, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's a funny thing as well, because obviously there's a lot of hoopla coming out of Huddersfield as well because of Brighton writer saying about how crap the players are and how bad the preparation's been and their attitude. And it's almost one of those things where you think it's almost so bad that you never know. They might just, like how football works, like you say, all of a sudden, you know, something daft happens and you know, it could be, and then, you know, we can all just kind of shut up then, can't we, and be just happy with it. But, you know, it's like you say, 17-1, it's not impossible. But yeah, I think you're right. I think for momentum, because obviously I know, you know, last time we were in the playoffs, you know, we had that patchy run of form leading up to it, and although we beat Derby in the first leg, and really we should have absolutely won it.
We should have been 3 or 4 up in that first leg.
It was ridiculous, but it's just that it's that thing, isn't it, where you want us to have some kind of momentum, and I think, you know, someone like Joseph coming in could be just that little bit of spark for something different potentially. Are you surprised, just kind of talking about stuff, are you surprised that more of the squad hasn't been used? I mean, I know obviously we've said about this, that, and the other, but I look at someone like Jadon Anthony, who 23, and especially first half of the season, he made some really, really good appearances for Leeds. Joe Gelhardt, you know, who I thought was dead lively, you know, when he came on the other night. I mean, are you kind of surprised that there's not been a tad more faith put in these players?
Yeah, a couple of them.
Especially when you're in a bad run. I mean, what's the danger? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're winning anyway.
I think I made this point on Monday. Jadon Anthony, I think, is a victim of not really being what Farke wanted. I don't know if you listen back to Monday. We were quite a long stream, so you might have missed it. But I made the point to the boys that Jadon Anthony was kind of lastminute.com transfer deadline day with the Sinistera deal, and I don't think Farke really wanted him. And I think as the form of Nonto, James, and Somerville has been so good this season, it's been an easy excuse to say, I'm really sorry, Jadon, you're on the bench. But yeah, I'm a bit surprised to have not seen more of him, especially when we've had this issue at 10. You know, we have had an issue in that kind of area of the pitch all season, really, you know, to change games. Because if it's not working for Rutter, we've got a Pirro, and Pirro's not done it. So, yeah, and Charlie Cresswell, I think, is another one. Like, I don't want to see him thrown in now, because that's not right.
What were we doing with him? What was the plan with him all season?
I mean, he signed a 5-year contract in the summer. It just seems
it's
bizarre.
Just wild, isn't it?
Yeah. It just seems too bizarre to have not given him any minutes at all, really, after the first maybe 2 or 3 weeks. But you know what? Maybe he's just not good enough. Like, we don't know. But yeah, to answer your question, yes. But I do think the squad is thin. You know, you're looking after them few that we've just mentioned. There's the likes of Shackleton. You know, who else have we got after that? Charlie Crew's been on the bench the last few weeks, who's yet to make a senior appearance. You know, that's what you're looking at. The squad is small. It's still thin. So yeah, I'd love to see 1 or 2, you know, more signings. I've seen a few people been mentioning Pritchard over the last few weeks. Ended up going to Birmingham in January. I think he'd have been a great signing in January. Not as an out-and-out starter every week, but he's not starting out-and-out week in, week out for Birmingham. It'd have been a really good signing until the end of the season to just give us that little bit of extra quality and depth.
Yeah, it's like Connor Roberts. I mean, I thought he's been decent, really. That was a really good signing for us, wasn't it, really? And it's just a shame he got injured, really.
Yeah, I think he'd have started the last few games if he'd have been fit. I do want to see Archie back at right back now, though, and I want to see Kamara back in the midfield. Especially if you're not going to bring Cooper or Cresswell into the back line and bring Ampadu back into the midfield, I think you need one of them two in there.
Yeah. I mean, if we tap into any of that form that we had kind of February time, March time, January, you know, if we tap into that again, if, you know, Kamara and Gruev and you know, these guys, Ampadu and Rodon, rock solid, if we tap into any of that, I mean, we don't fear anyone in the playoffs, do we? Do you know what I mean? It's just, you know.
No, I mean, I think about the games, you know, against them. I think ultimately, if we're going to play Southampton in the playoffs, it'll be in the final and a one-off game. Yeah. We can analyse that better after Saturday because we're going to have played them for a second time, right? I think somebody made the point earlier on. Nobody's done the double overs this season if we don't lose to Southampton, and I think that's a good point. I think the games against West Brom, I don't think they're a good measure because I actually think we were the better team in both of them. The game away from home was messy and it was a 1-0 stinker.
The Melier sending off, or was that Preston?
Preston, that was Preston. I don't think we were that bad that day though, and I think Corberan just stunk his way to a 1-0 win. At home, I thought we were miles a better team. We should have had a penalty that day. They ended up scoring a handball goal or an offside goal, one or the other. I can't remember what we ended up drawing 1-1. So I'm not particularly fearful of them. Norwich, I think are a good side, can beat anybody on the day. They've got some attacking talent, but again, we're beating them twice. The team that I really fear is Hull, because I think they're going to be the ones that come into it with form if they get into the top 6 on Saturday. And I think they've got some real firepower up front, but defensively they can be got at. So, you know what? I don't fear them. I don't fear anybody in the playoffs other than Leeds United.
Well, this is what we've got to remember. We've still got a second bite of the cherry here, haven't we? Second bite of the apple, rather. We've we might not do automatic, but we've got still a great opportunity to get promoted. Just
we have to do it eventually, Browney. We have to win in the playoffs eventually. It's for years and years and years. I think it was Preston who'd never done it, and then they went and won in the League One playoffs. Sunderland have got a reputation for choking in the playoffs. They eventually did it as well. So. Yeah,
don't let Dan James take any penalties in any potential kickoffs.
I know, bless him.
I think that's been a factor as well. The Welsh boys, unfortunately for them,
I definitely think it has. Definitely
factored in. Let's get to some of your comments then, Byron. We need to emphasise our future rather than the past. With minor changes, this is the best squad in the Championship. Yeah, we can tend to live in the past as Leeds fans a little bit, can't we?
Yeah.
Michael, Rutter is not a number 10. His goal return compared to Dewsbury Hall is poor. Only 6 goals, although his assists have been good. Yeah, his assists have been out of this world, but just totally can't finish.
On that point, Michael, we know that he's not a 10. I don't think a single Leeds fan thinks he's a 10. He's an inside forward from the right. I said it to you a few weeks ago, Brian, didn't I? A couple of months maybe back now even. I'd love to have signed a number 10 and have Rutter out on the right. And next season, I would love to see the same. I just saw a stat a minute ago. I liked it on Twitter. So just give me a second. I'll bring it back up. Gio Rutter is actually the lowest XG. So he's got the worst XG, best and worst finishing in the Championship this season. Jorginho Rutter is by far the worst finisher in the division by XG. 6.3, and the next closest to him is Matt Godden on 3.5, then Jack Rodoni at Huddersfield on 3.4. So there's 3 goals extra. The 6 goals that the statistics are saying that Rutter should have had that he's effectively missed. So and it makes a massive difference. It makes a massive difference over the season, does that? I think several times this season, if Rutter had scored when he should have done, they'll probably go on to win the game. The one on Friday night that brings it back to 2-1, and who knows from then, because the game changes. It's
got to be something he works on, isn't it? I was hoping when Thierry Henry grabbed him in the French under-21s that he'd be like, "Come on now, I'll show you what it's about." Come on, TT, get into him a bit. A bit of a. I mean, one of the few transfer failures was not getting a number 10, wasn't it, really, Jason? When you look at it now, how much we could have used that. I wonder why they didn't pull. Mind you, they tried the Emery deal, didn't they? And they kind of wasted.
That was the summer, though,
time with that, didn't we? We lost a lot of time with that, didn't we?
That was the summer, and I think come January, I think we'd made because of the Spence situation, I think we made the priority a right back. With Farke coming back into form, and I think we'd made the decision that we could get through with what we had with Rutter, playing as well as he was, and some of the other options in there should Rutter not be available. Pirro then had become an out-and-out 10. He wasn't really being, considered as the 9 at the time because of Bamford. So, yeah, Gelhardt still in and around the squad who could play there if we really needed. It was definitely a mistake, though. It was definitely a mistake. When you watch the likes of QPR and Ilya Shears is a good Championship number 10. It's not Pablo Hernandez. He's not like top level. He's not. I don't think he'd survive in the Premier League. But at this level, just what he can bring, you can see it in that game the other night. We don't have that. Gio isn't that. He's way too direct to even be considered that same kind of player. So yeah, massive shortfall, that, mate. Massive.
Indeed. Nige, how many players do you think we'll lose this summer if we stay in the Championship? I think probably Somerville, Nonto, Rutter, Rodon, Anthony, Roberts, Ampadu, maybe James, Fairport, Mez. Yeah,
I wouldn't go that. Like, you're making that look quite a long list. I think they would have to take some serious money to take them boys out. I would be stunned if Somerville was still here next season. But I also think that we'll get 45 million for him. 40 million.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an astronomical Championship fee. I don't think anybody takes the punt with Nonto, because I think people, they're going to want 25, 30 million for him, just like they did this summer just gone. And who's going to pay that for him based on what we've seen? Like, don't get me wrong, he's had flashes again this season, but he's got petulance, and he's got times where he's completely gone off the boil.
You'd let him, you wouldn't necessarily pull the trigger now, would you? Teams, it's Somerville, isn't it, where you're looking?
Yeah,
yes,
and I think Rutter's the same. I think you're going to be looking at needing to spend 40 million on him. Are you going to spend 40 million on him? I don't think so. Rodon has already come out and said that he wants to stay at Leeds regardless of the division that we're in. I think that's definitely a goer. I think it'll be a smaller fee if we're in the Championship than in the Premier League. I think Anthony, in the nicest possible way, who cares? Like, we'll go out and replace it. Well, no, because we haven't seen enough of him, have we, Brownie, to know whether he's actually going to be a miss or not. Roberts, I think exactly the same, because we've not seen enough of him. I think that'd be a free transfer anyway. I think that's probably a goer, if I'm honest, is Connor Roberts. Because he'll be a free transfer. I think his contract finishes at the end of the season.
Yeah, that'd be, if we're still in Championship, absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. And then Ampadu, there ain't a chance Ampadu goes. Because again, you're going to be asking a Premier League team to pay 25, 30 million for him, and they're not going to do it. And I think Ampadu, signed a 5-year deal at Leeds. He wanted to find a home, and I think he's now got one. But we'll do this at the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll do a proper one. I will say, though, if we sign more players on the level of Rodon and Ampadu this summer, if you can flesh out the squad with, 23, 24, 25 and above players, I think you're laughing. I think that's the quality level, if we can recruit that, where you're going, yes, that's what we need.
I think you'd see a massive summer. Because we would lose some, we would lose a few, but I think a lot of them would be at our discretion. And I think you'll see 10, 11 new signings. I'm not saying they'd all be starters in the first 11, but I think you'd see 5 or 6 for the first team, 10, 11 total. I really do, because I think there'll be questions over Mez. I think there'll be questions at 9. The loan players that are going back, like Anthony and stuff like that, they would need replacing. Somerville would need replacing, and we would go out and replace them. And we do need a bigger squad.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, thanks for your comment. Pirro, a bit of a scapegoat. How about lack of goals from midfield? Yeah, it's clear lack of goals from other.
He's definitely not a scapegoat.
No,
he's not a scapegoat, Ian. He's simply just what he brings to us as a team on the pitch. He's an out-and-out finisher that will most of the time put the ball in the back of the net, but he's been asked to link play, and he can't link play. I brought, while you were chatting earlier, I brought up on my opposite screen the goal scorers for Norwich in the 18-19 season, because I think a lot of comparisons get made with it. And don't get me wrong, the goals are spread out maybe a little bit better than this Leeds team, but the biggest difference between the two is Team Mapuke. Team Mapuke was on 29 goals, and our top scorer is Somerville on 17, I think it is. Something like that. Obviously, he's got his assist on top of that. You then go down to Vrancic and Stiepermann, who were arguably the 2 number 10s in behind. Buendia on 8, 10, 9, 8. All of our front 4 have got more than that. Somerville, Somerville, James, Rutter, Somerville, James, Pirro, and Bamford have all got the same or more. Even Bamford's got 8, and he's only been playing since January. Buendia was their 4th top scorer on 8. So it's of a similar kind of nature, just coming from different areas of the pitch. It is a problem, no goals from midfield, but the players are not goal scoring midfielders, are they? They're just not goal scoring midfielders.
No, absolutely. Nige, the way Cresswell has been treated has been awful. Why give him a new contract in the summer and not play him? Yeah, it's something that we touched on there, and it probably needs resolving in the summer, to be honest. I would have liked to have seen it work for Charlie. I think it would have been nice for him to get some more appearances, but we're not a charity, are we? And it's got to be the right call.
Club decision against Farke's decision there. I think Charlie Cresswell signed a contract in discussions with the 49ers before Farke was really fully in go. And then Farke's coming and be like, I don't really like this guy. I think that's what's happened. And then we've got this situation where if it had been on a 2-year deal, we'd have probably taken $2 million from him from Millwall. But now, because he's on a 5-year deal, he's actually probably worth $10 million to us. So it makes a difficult dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. Calgary calling, welcome along, Paul. Both players and Farke have to hold their hands up. They've blown up last 6 to 7 games. No excuses, none. When this fan base turns, you're a dead man walking TikTok. I think, go on, Jason.
I just think that's the problem. I think exactly the way that you're coming across there, Paul, is exactly the problem why we have a bit of an issue in this fan base. Again, earlier on in the stream, we're talking about entitlement. You know, this team of extremely young, naive, inexperienced players has managed to produce a season in which in every other one other than one in the last 30 would have gone up in the top 2, and in most of them would have won the division. To say that they've then blown up in the last 6 or 7, while factually true, over the context of the whole season, it's fair that they've had a blip. You know, I just think it's so harsh that we start turning on the players and the fan base now. I mean, again, just talk about entitlement. Before Bielsa came along, we were just 13th to 16th mediocrity. You wouldn't have had a prayer.
If you got rid of Farke, who would be better placed to get us promoted next season?
Nobody.
Tell me a name.
I'd rather have Daniel Farke over all of them apart from McKenna. And I'm only saying that because of what we've seen McKenna do. There's no saying that McKenna could deal with this pressure and this club and this the shirt and the badge and the rest of it. There's no saying that. It's a very special set of circumstances that he finds himself in at Ipswich.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it needs to, if we go into the playoffs and we don't go up, I mean, I dread to think what the reaction will be like if we get a performance like against QPR, then that noise is going to get louder and louder, isn't it? But hopefully that won't be the case.
Yeah, I definitely think the next couple of weeks are still vitally important. I think regardless of what happens, unless we get absolutely thumped in all 3 games, I don't imagine there'll be any plans to remove Farke, and nor should there be. He's proven this season that he's more than capable of getting us to finish in the top 2. Like I say, any other season we would. And I don't think the Championship will be anywhere near as difficult next season as it is this season. You're not going to have a Leicester. You're not going to have a Southampton. You're not going to have an Ipswich. Ipswich are such a freak. And the teams that come down, I think most of them are going to find themselves in a bit of a mess. Yeah. Not worried about Sheffield United. Not worried about Luton. Not worried about Forest. Burnley, I think, would probably be up there. I think they'd be challenging with us. I'm not worried about Portsmouth. I'm not worried about Derby. They are League One players in most of them teams. Derby's taken a couple of seasons. Portsmouth have taken, 6 years, 7 years in that division to get up? I can't even think who's in the playoffs at the moment. But I'm not worried about it. They're not the same. They're not the same. They'll be a Plymouth. They'll be a Rotherham. They'll be them, in and amongst there. So, yeah, not for me. Not for me. I'll be a threat.
No, great point. Jason, before we sign off then, anything else you want to cover, mate, before we go?
Up the dog botherers, I guess. We've already got Steve Downs booked in at Crufts to say thank you. So yeah, we're look, Saturday will come. I obviously hope that Huddersfield end up winning the game and we end up winning and we go up, and what an unbelievable start. What an unbelievable stream Saturday night would be, by the way, right? However, it's very unlikely. I just hope that there's no false hope before immediate disappointment. Huddersfield take a 1-0 lead, then they concede in the 80th minute, and then Ipswich win in the 92nd or something. I don't need that in my life. No, be 3-0 up at half-time, Ipswich, if you're going to do it. I don't need that, okay? Because there definitely will come a point where I start believing. Huddersfield are very good at getting draws this season. So I can see it now.
Yeah, that'd be annoying.
We're 3-0 up. Huddersfield are just, holding out at 0-0. And then we're watching this Huddersfield game and we're pleading for Huddersfield to score Emile Smith-Rowe style. And it just don't come and we end up losing out by a point. But yeah, for me, it's been a good season all round. I've enjoyed it. I'm gearing up for the playoffs. believe we can do it. I think there's a chance that we also won't. But you're not going I'm going to be disappointed, but you're not going to see me crestfallen if I have to say, right, okay, a couple of months off football now, we'll come back again, we're in the championship, let's go again, let's win this league. So, yeah, that's how I'm going to finish for today, mate.
Yeah, no, that's sounds good to me. We should mention as well that this weekend, myself and Jason, we are partaking in Avifest, Bradford Park Avenue, a little festival they've got going on. They've got all sorts going on. They've got a couple of games going on. It's Bradford Park Avenue fans versus the Bradford Park Avenue reps at 5 o'clock. That's the one that myself and Jace are going to be involved in. I mean, yeah, God. Jesus, what have I signed up to? I'd got myself out of it as well, and I've come full circle, haven't I?
It's funny, isn't it? You put your hand up for something thinking, yeah, that's a good idea. And then when it comes in the week and you think, oh, I'm going to be playing against Danny Whitaker and James Anson a weekend, I'm thinking, oh, God, it's going to be a bit brutal. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it on one hand, but I'm a bit dreading it on the other as well. So,
yeah, we've got a couple of the other boys from the West Yorkshire Football Show playing as well. Stephen Downs is going to be in it, Lewis Sale as well. And then I think Gaz and Chris are going to be watching from the stands.
Cheerleaders.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun again. So pop along to that if you want to come and support myself and Jace. We need all the support we can get on Sunday. That's 5 o'clock, that one there. But yeah, thank you for your comments. Please pop a like on the video if you've not done already. Get your comments in as well. Also, just to make you aware as well that we are available on Spotify. So if you want to get all your episodes available to listen to, follow the West Yorkshire Football Show on Spotify as well.
What's the plan for the weekend and for reviews and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be available.
Look how miserable you are about
the game, but not immediately after the game. But I'll be here. I'll be here. If we go up, it'll just be
beers on stream. I did say that I wanted to go straight to Ellen Road if we go up, but because then it looked as if it was definitely not going to be a goer, I've kind of parked that idea. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get on at some point, and then in amongst the playoffs.
I'd love that if we go up and we a couple of beers on the stream and get some people on. It'd be great with that. Please,
playoff stream, Brownie.
Oh, what are you doing to me? Come on. Anyways, it's been a positive stream. We can do this. Playoffs or whatever it'll be. Let's get it done. Great stuff. Well, thank you for watching. I've been Stephen Brown. With me has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And we'll catch you again Saturday and we'll see what happens. Thank you for watching.